There's one aspect of stillwater fly fishing that has perhaps puzzled more anglers than any other. Why is it that so often a few fishermen can consistently catch fish despite the most terrible fishing conditions? It's been proven time and again that it's not just luck, it's not just local knowledge, and not just using a particular fly. So there must be something that these anglers are doing that the rest are not.
Back in action. Nicely marked rainbow.
Catching fish when everything is on the angler's side would prove little, so we chose days when conditions are difficult and in some cases apparently near impossible. On occasion we take our experts to waters they have seldom, if ever, fished, so that local knowledge is not a dominant factor in their success.
And then you can grab.
With the cooperation of some of the most successful and respected stillwater anglers in the world, we set out to study their methods as they fish a variety of still waters.
Yes. Beautiful fish. Lovely, lovely conditioned fish. We go to fight another day.
Here are a few moments from each of the waters we'll be visiting with our experts. Bank fishing on a small Somerset still water. The weather's really bright and there's a nasty, cold, northeasterly wind. Chris Ogborne and John Braithwaite face a day that could mean a blank for many anglers.
Oh no, John. That's a nice fish.
Rather than simply casting straight down the wind.
Out on a boat, Jeremy Lucas and Chris Ogborne drift across Buell Water in a sharp easterly wind under a brilliant blue sky. Not surprisingly, there are few fish showing. Chris goes below the surface with an intermediate line, while Jeremy works a floating line to great effect.
Now, he took that right on the surface.
Well off the top, excellent.
In the Midlands, the mighty Grafham Water is in one of its sulky moods. Brian Ledbetter and Bob Church initially find fish are hard to come by as they search at varying depths with different flies. Bob has to change tactics radically before he gets into a fish. But Brian finds an early solution at his end of the boat.
Oh, he's there.
He's there.
Very slow. I'll slow-mo his trade down there, and he's taken the Ivans going and brown.
Now onto Chew Valley Lake for the ultimate frustration of the stillwater fly fishermen. 4 very experienced anglers tackle some rather choosy fish. Whatever artificial they're offered is often ignored, or at the best the fish follow the fly and then disappear.
There's a follow, there's a
Follow,
follow.
yeah, he's following, he's following, he's following, he's following. Shh, he's got to have that.
Very, very slow.
Rutland Water, where there are different problems for the competitors in the international final of the Benson and Hedges Championship. Under a lot of personal pressure, the top stillwater specialists of the season fish for the most prestigious prize in competitive fly fishing. Tempting migratory fish like the salmon and sea trout when conditions don't suit has always been one of the problems of angling. Arthur Oglesby, with his vast experience of salmon fishing, demonstrates some special tricks for difficult days and proves that they work.
Small fly seems to attract summer fish much better than a larger one.
He's not. They're so lively, aren't they?
Jeremy Lucas brings British reservoir techniques to Irish sea trout fishing when the traditional methods have failed, and has the time of his life.
There he is. He's about played out.
Well done, that's a bonny little sea trout.
Lovely sea trout.
Oh, lovely.
Great.
Well done.
A small Somerset still water and conditions are not exactly ideal. There's little or no ripple and the hazy sun is keeping insects and fish well down. Our anglers are John Braithwaite, a national champion and recently captain of England, and fishing with him is Chris Ogborne, well-known fishing author and also a former captain of England.
Well, I've got a fairly typical small still water here. I think what I'll do, I'll stick with my favourite tactics, which is floating line and nymphs, and see how we go from there. buzzer on the dropper, which is pretty good. It represents just about every major form of midge that we've got in the likely to find in the water. And I'll put on the point a green tag stick, my old faithful stick fly, which is a general representation of a caddis and has been incredibly successful over the last few years. It's a very brightish sort of day, so the white line should be okay today. You don't always agree with that one, do you?
Not always, no. It's always been a contentious point, hasn't it? I
Well-
prefer the dark line myself.
Well, white's the colour of the bellies of most of the fish-eating birds, so I think if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Let's go catch some fish. Well, what we've got here is a gently shelving bank. I think I'm probably covering about 7 or 8 feet of water at the extremity of the cast. Fairly flat at the moment. Nothing on the top, so the weighted nymph is probably a good idea. Seems to be right. What I'll do now is just wait for the leader to cut through the surface. Nymphs are sinking fairly slowly, although I've treated the leader to sink with some Fuller's Earth mix, which helps the leader cut through the surface of the water fairly quickly. It's always the problem in these situations, especially on small still waters, because there's a flat calm on the top and they can see most of the movement and activity on the bank, and so they're fairly easily spooked. I think that fly's probably reached a fishable depth now, so I'll just slowly ease the nymphs back. It's like a figure of 8 retrieve, but without the problem of bunching, as most people's idea of the figure of 8 retrieve is hanging on to all the line in your hand in the figure of 8, which gives it its name. I prefer to let the line fall to the water. Easier to retrieve and easier when it comes to recast. You don't get the bunching in the line. A few fish showing a bit further out, but the nice thing about small still waters is that you can generally expect to find fish closer in. Different speed of retrieve is useful as well. Quite often you see a lot of bank anglers just permanently retrieving like this. Well, certainly on a still day, that puts too much life into the flies. It's far better to inch them back naturally. Well, we've well and truly lost the ripple here now, and the ripple is vital on these small still waters, so I think we're going to have to hunt the troubled waters and make a move. John, do you reckon we need to find some ripple?
It's too flat, all the fish
It's too
are not
far
in
out, aren't they?
calculation.
Let's make a move. Basically what's happened is that the wind's all over the place this morning. 1 minute it's giving us a good ripple, the next minute we're down to virtually flat calm. We've moved almost around the lake, and yet even here we're faced almost with a flat calm. On the other hand, there's deep water. Should be a few more food items pushed over on the wind, so fingers crossed. Looks to be about probably 8 or 10 feet, I should think, on the edge of that cast, so good fishing depth. God, you're really going. Break a golden rule and play them on the reel, I think, for fun. It's a good 2.5 pound, John.
About 2.5?
Yep. Lovely clean fish.
Good, good.
That's a lovely fish, John. Good, close on £3.
Is it? It's nice and clean, isn't it?
Absolutely beautiful. Let him get his breath back and away. Well done, John.
Rainbow.
Well done, John. First one in the net.
Nice rainbow, about £2.
Lovely looking fish.
Put that one gently back.
Yes. Whew. Straight into the weed. They know where to go for safety, don't they? I wish they all behaved as well as that. Oh, there we are. Your lucky day, my friend. A really powerful fish, this is. Oof. It's a beautiful fish. A great big tail. Really powerful fish. That's a beautiful fish. Absolutely beautiful. Not as big as I first thought, but very, very nice nevertheless. Let's still put this one back. Just slashed at the fly and taken it just under the chin. My goodness me, that is a lovely, lovely fish. Absolutely beautiful. 3.5 pounds of perfectly conditioned rainbow trout.
There's an ever-increasing interest in the use of the dry fly on still waters. As a tactic, it can be devastating on occasions. It also makes a delightful change from the other methods of still water fishing. Once the midges and sedge start to move at the end of the day, a dry fly will often fetch up fish where a sunk fly may be ignored. Near the sheltered bank vegetation should be a likely spot to try the dry, as this is where the insects will be performing their evening dance.
Now we see a rise or two. And the fly I've chosen is a little green midge. It's very difficult to see the dry fly in these conditions. It's a very bad light, especially with the rain bouncing on the water. But if I look closer, I can just see it out there on the surface. There's no fish moving at the moment to cast to, but hopefully in a moment we might see one or two. There's a fish, straight in front. The thing is, with dry fly fishing, if you do manage to get a take, you're fishing with very light tackle. I'm using a leader about 9–10 feet, about 3 pound point. So if he does take, don't strike hard, just lift the rod, because otherwise you'll get broken straight away. I think I'll give it a couple of casts to just dry it off. There's a fish just moved over there. You can see the fly now. There's a better light on that side. See that fly, Chris?
You've got the greenery as a backdrop,
isn't it?
yeah.
Very often when you are dry fly fishing, a little twitch on the fly occasionally gets a fish, induces a fish to take the fly. So very often it's worth just giving a little twitch to get that fish moving and leave it still for a moment.
So often you see the sedges, don't you, on the surface, and they skitter across the top. And the dry fly looks like that sometimes when you give it a bit of light.
Just a bit too soon on that one, just a bit too soon. But that one definitely took it, Chris, didn't he?
Yep. Oh, he looked very positive.
Yes, he went down on the fly.
Yeah.
I felt him, but there's a nice fish just moved.
Yeah, I'll just ease us out a bit further, John.
Actually, I think he was going that way. There
Yes, he's got...
No, he didn't take it, Chris, did he? He didn't.
They're turning over on it
Yeah,
and drowning
he's
it, but
drowning
not taking it. Ever so exciting though, to see the take, isn't it?
We are.
Right, John.
We are.
Excellent.
Took nicely.
Took that sweetly off the top.
Oh, nice little fish, that.
Lovely.
Under the boat.
Why do they always love to be under the boat?
You have to take these fish very lightly when you're fishing with
3 pound line.
3 pound line, as they'll break you off as sweet as a nut. There you are. Perfect, really. Oops.
Back out of the way.
Right, if we just
There we are, sir.
show that little dry fly. Actually, in that fish's mouth. That's just a little dry fly, right in the side of the mouth.
On the side. Just enough of a hook hold there
Yeah,
to...
just holding. If that's in a
Yeah.
bigger fish, he's been away.
Most anglers arriving at Buell Water on a bright day like this would be wondering if it was worth the expense of a boat. But with the pressure on stillwater fishing nowadays, most of us have to book our fishing well in advance and make the best of the day, whatever the weather. Jeremy Lucas is our local at Buell Water and well known for his beautifully observed fishing articles. Chris Ogborn, on the other hand, seldom fishes here, so he's keen to do some homework before they start fishing.
Damselfly nymph then.
So it is. Lovely. big
While
one.
many anglers would already be casting a team of favourite flies, Chris and Jeremy pull up on the margins to study the insect life.
Incredible insect.
Lovely big one.
Time spent looking should give some clues as to what the fish are feeding on, and it's great for the confidence to put on flies you know are active in the water.
Actually get him out and put him alongside the 2 imitations that we're using. Look at that.
Now look at that. That's not a million miles away, is it? It's perfect in size. That's just right.
The colour of the seal's fur.
Yeah.
You've got they'll actually go darker when it gets wet.
It will when it's wet. A lot of these
so-
are paler anyway.
Yeah.
So
This dark olive colour here
Yeah.
actually is pretty close.
very close indeed.
And it's incredible.
Look how
thing.
active he
Yeah,
is.
really moving. So many anglers just use the figure of 8 retrieve on a damsel. In actual fact, you can really give it some life because they go at that kind of speed
They
through the
twist
water.
all over the place.
And amazing to think that changes in the space of a few seconds into the most beautiful electric blue insect. From drab green to bright electric blue. And they're all over the place.
They
Look,
are,
there's a blue damsel on the boat there.
one in your bag just here. Look at this. Look. Now look at that.
Perfect colour.
Look at
Lovely.
that. Beautiful electric
Beautiful
blue.
insect.
Look. And there he goes. Well,
Why don't we go and see if we can imitate the naturals?
well, they're giving us a lesson. Let's go and see if we can catch one on a damsel.
Fairly obvious stuff, isn't it?
That's right.
Jeremy has mounted an 11-foot rod with a double taper number 5 floating line. He's using a very long leader and his own special fly patterns. His soldier palmer is tied with lots of loose seal's fur and no tail, while Chris's soldier pattern is much lighter in colour with a tippet tail. These bushy flies act as attractors or wake flies, while the damsel imitations further down the leader do the real damage.
Intermediate line this morning.
Well, there's not a lot showing, but I don't think they're very deep. I'm going to stick with this floater, I think, and try and bully them up to the surface, or track them up to the surface with a big soldier palmer. Well, not big, a size 12, but quite bushy on the top.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. You're going down just an extra foot or two.
If the fish are holding any particular depth, then one of us is bound to find it. Oh, fish down there, see?
You see one in there?
Yeah,
just on the edge of that
try
coloured
right
water.
on the edge of that dirty water there. Now it should be about...
Ah! Last.
Lift off.
He took the point fly on the hang. Yes!
Well done, Jeremy.
Oh, what a lovely take.
Right off the top.
Oh,
Lovely.
he did too. Right off top, came up to it. I think it's on that,
Absolutely right off
that
the top.
lovely wicked hare's ear. That
He's really going, Jeremy, isn't he?
fantastic. The
Right
power
round-
of these fish.
Right round the side of the boat. It was so positive, wasn't it?
Bang.
Yeah. Really positive.
Ooh,
Get the rod under the boat then.
he did.
That's fantastic.
Power.
Lightly hooked in the scissors.
Very lightly hooked. Beautiful, perfect hook hold. There he is. I have a little theory that when fish are not feeding on particularly very much, their attention is focused on the surface.
Yes, waiting for something to happen, in other words.
That's right. Now look at the fight that one gave me. He's
really-
not a huge fish, and it's a
Two-pound
lovely fish. Okay, Chris, I better put this one out of its misery quickly now.
What's he been taking?
Well, let's scoop it and find out. Oh, and look at that. He's on the damsel larvae. Look at that.
I should think he had that one 5 minutes
5
before
minutes
you took
ago.
him.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And look at the fly next to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at that. Now, there is
Close.
not very much difference in
Close
there.
enough, isn't it?
It's close enough. He thought he was having another damselfly.
I'm going to vary the casting a bit on this intermediate line because I'm just fan casting, as we call it. Rather than simply casting straight down the wind, you can often bring a fish by casting across. Using all the angles. An awful lot of people just cast straight down
Just
the boat.
straight down all day.
And
That's
in
right.
fact, you've got
You miss
90
out on
degrees,
all
which
those
is...
other arcs, angles, yes.
Or 90 degrees of workable fishing. Having said that, it's ever so difficult to resist casting
Gotcha.
straight down the wind lane.
Now, he
Well
took
done,
that
Joe.
right on the surface.
Right off the top. Excellent. That one really came up for it, didn't he?
He came up
took
for
that
it.
one right on the top.
I think he chased the soldier, actually, on the
Yeah.
top to attract him. I often put a soldier in these bright, blustery conditions.
Just to
soldier
bring 'em
palm,
up.
Just to bring them up. And so often you get a swirl or a boil behind the fly.
Uh-huh.
But if you've got highly imitative patterns behind it, then that's...
Lovely. Well
then
done,
they'll
Joe.
have that.
I'll just ease us out a bit from the bank.
Okay. And we'll drift on through.
I think so.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you very
well done.
much, Mr. Fish. Right out the water too, Jeremy. Isn't that
right.
lovely? Come out, you swine. Don't you go under there. Well done, Jeremy.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you, sir. very
Difficult
much.
conditions, sir.
Very
Well
hard
done.
conditions. Well, I've had a lot of bigger fish in my time, but I haven't had any that are quite as welcome as that.
Yes.
Right in tight too.
Yes, that's right, in close. Is there anything in it?
Yep, quite a lot. Some terrestrials there.
Yes.
Small crane fly.
Small crane.
Small crane fly. What size is that piece of weed?
Because you did see him rising.
Can you imagine any
Yes, I
fish
know.
eating a piece of
Incredible.
weed that size?
Thought it was a damsel or something.
Phenomenal.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh, very. Well done, Jenna.
Went up on him there, and his one fish weighed a couple of ounces more than my three. We'll get to the top of the wind and then drift out.
Yeah, it gets up to the old valley run through there. It's normally a good spot on this wind.
Grapham Water presents our experts with another of the problems often faced by the Stillwater fly fishermen. This venue is well known for its prolific Daphnia concentrations. These minute creatures will, when conditions suit, form huge underwater clouds of living soup. The trout then only have to cruise gently through the cloud and ingest them by the hundreds. Daphnia are far too small to effectively imitate with any artificial pattern, especially as one artificial Daphnia would be lost in the billions of naturals available. So, when the trout become preoccupied with Daphnia, fishing can be difficult, at least until a good hatch of buzzer, for example, switches the trout's attention.
Well, I'm fishing an intermediate type line with nymphs in this bright sun and the changeable conditions.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably be just a little bit down. There's not much rising.
But the wind's been in this sort of northeast, isn't it, for a little while now?
You know,
The well-known Bob Church is fishing a fast-sinking line with 3 size 10 flies, and he's quickly retrieving the line as soon as it lands on the water to ensure his flies do not fish too deep. Brian Ledbetter, the 1987 World Fly Fishing Champion, is using an intermediate line and inching his flies back in a gentle figure-of-8 retrieve.
That little mud slick coming off the corner?
yes, yeah. What length lead do you got on there, Bob?
4 metre. 2 metres from fly line to first dropper, another metre, and another metre to the point, so reasonably spaced.
I've gone slightly longer. I like to fish it a bit longer for this type of fish. I've got about 8 feet to my top dropper, and I've got 5 and 6 feet in between flies.
Ah, you're a bit more spread out.
Also, only fishing a 5-pound leader point. With a 5-pound strain, I tend to...
You get more takes.
You get more takes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's less for 2 evils, really. Daddy Longlegs, Bob, just coming past you. Daddy, look.
Good grief, that's early. Oh.
Well done, Bob.
Oh, he's off.
When two anglers fish together, it makes a lot of sense for them to start the day with rather different methods. This way, a winning combination of line and flies can be more quickly found. Then, both anglers can adopt the successful method.
These very slow-sinking intermediate lines are absolutely perfect for this black carp type of fishing.
Well,
Just coming through subsurface with no line wake. He's there. He's there.
That's a foot
That is
down.
a prime example. Very,
That is
very
a
slow
foot down.
retrieve in a flat carp. Very small nymphs. Oh, he's going well.
I'll give it a few more minutes with these 10s and I'll change down to 12.
Yeah, I think a 12 is probably
if I
slightly
don't
better.
succeed. What's he took?
I think he's took the Ivan's green and brown
Good.
on the top dropper.
Straight the top jaw. He wouldn't have got off.
Yeah, and the top jaw, my fly must be upside down. That's terrible. Give me a wash. He's a fat little fish, Bob.
Oh, yeah, he'll do.
Having caught one fish and had a pull or two, Bob and Brian repeat the drift, but this time a little further to the left. Locating feeding fish is relatively easy if they're showing on the surface, but when they're not, it calls for experience and watercraft. Early in the day, the first areas to develop a hatch of fly will usually be the warmer areas of the water. Where it is sheltered from any cool winds with a gently shelving bottom will often be the first part of the water to produce fish.
Now this is a good tactic really for early season fishing right through into June, isn't it?
It's marvellous, yeah. Oh, he's there.
He's there.
Very slow. I slowed my retrieve down there, and he's taken the Ivan's green and brown again.
Take it there, take it.
Yeah.
You've got the Ivan's green up.
Yeah, and that was very slow. I think he must have hit me about 4 feet. Stick fly middle dropper, Bob.
Oh, look at that. Oh!
What flies you fishing now, Bob?
I've got Ivan's green and brown on the point. I've got a pheasant tail hackle.
Yeah.
And I've got a soldier palmer on the top.
Well, my cast is very similar. I've got the Ivan's green and brown on the top, the pheasant tail on the point, with an olive thorax. You get lots of olivey coloured fly coming off this time of the year. And I put a stick fly in the middle. But the Ivan's certainly... Oops! And he's there this time. Yeah, he's there. He took on the second pull.
You're giving me a pasting here.
I wonder what he's had. Ivan's green and brown again.
Ivan's green and brown
Ivan's again, yeah.
It looks like I'm going to have to come back onto the same line as yours, Brian.
But I think the critical thing is it's very, very slow.
Yeah, I've got one as well. Oh, it's off again.
Not again, Bob.
Oh, wow, that
doing?
just beats all.
Come on, my little beauty.
I get the net for you, Brian.
Cheers, Bob.
I'm being a good gilly this morning. Oh, he's in the scissors.
Respectable. Not bad fish, Bob.
Nice fish.
I'm just going to spoon it, see what it's been eating. That might give us a guide as to what they're doing. Look at this, Bob. Stuffed with buzzer. Dark green buzzers. And a little bit of...
When there are no fish near the top, the angler must get down to them. Anchoring the boat is one way. The other, and perhaps more effective method, is called Northampton style. This technique was developed in the 60s and involves drifting the boat end-on to the wind rather than broadside. The two anglers cast out of opposite sides across the wind with sinking lines. The flies are then allowed to sink as the boat drifts past. Different speed retrieves will then bring the flies back at varying depths in an underwater arc. The most likely place for a take is as the flies zip around to follow the drifting boat.
I mean, I'm casting 30 yards. You're casting 30 yards. That's 60 yards of water being covered, which ain't bad, you know. That's a lot of water. It's another method as well for someone who comes here on a dog day when they can't catch a fish. They go in moaning, saying they can't catch any fish and no fish in here and that. If they use this technique, they're liable to be fishing for biggish fish. It's a method that allows you to fish for big fish. We drifted 400 yards in no time, swinging the lures around in a big arc. See, if you get a take or a fish,
Yep, over. Hey there.
yeah, here we are.
Well done, Bob.
I know what you're going to say to me in a minute, Brian.
No, I should net your own.
You're going to say to me in a minute, no, not about nets, you're going to say you always was a lure fisherman.
I'm not going to say that at all.
You were thinking it.
Go, man. I'll offer you a little bit.
Oh, Brian! You menace! You menace! You menace!
Chew Valley Lake, a beautiful reservoir nestling in the Mendip Hills and a great favourite of many Stillwater fishermen. Renowned for its numbers of surface feeding fish, it offers some of the finest floating line, small fly fishing in the world. Chris and John are joined by two local experts, John Dawson and John Horsey, on what looks like a perfect fishing day in early June. At times, especially on chew, surface feeding fish can become so preoccupied with the mass of natural insects hatching, they will ignore almost any artificial offered to them. It can be particularly frustrating to have fish feeding all around the boat and find that although some will occasionally chase the fly, they will not get hold of it.
Okay. We away?
What rod are you using this morning?
Well, I've chosen the longer rod this morning, 11'3", although I don't really think it's going to make that much difference because there's no real wave on.
I'm going to stay with my 9.5 footer, I think. Any ideas on flies yet?
Yeah, the cast I've chosen, I've got a 6-pound leader, about 12, 14 feet, and I've got a grenadier on the bob, claret buzzer in the middle, and the old faithful Wickham's on the point.
Yeah. Again, you never know until you actually see some natural insects, do you? It's a great shame, actually. We ought to be seeing a lot of grenadier at the moment because the timing's right. First week in June, absolutely spot on. It's always encouraging to see the birds on the water because if they're picking something up, it means that there's a hatch of something going on, even if we can't see it yet. I think it helps to vary the retrieve a bit too, John. Fish rising just out there. Get that out there, okay?
Yeah, well, looks a possibility.
That looks a distinct possibility.
Well, too. There's
Ooh,
another
look,
one
he's
beyond
looking
that,
at it.
Chris, in the slip behind me.
He's looking at it. No, he's looking.
Following it.
Turned away. Short of prizing his mouth open, there wasn't anything else I could have done with that one.
Follow, there's a follow.
Yeah, he's following, he's following.
He's going to have it, there's a following.
Shh, he's got to have that. I'm wondering about fine line, John. That's half a dozen fish that we've seen and they've all ignored it.
That's right.
I think he's on it. He's on it.
Just having a look at it.
Look at that, he's on you! Look at that, how could it not take?
Jeepers.
How could he refuse that?
Look at that, he's having a look
Still
at
there.
it again.
I don't even have it again anyway, John.
The classic solutions to persuading following fish to take are many, but these involve continuous trial and permutation on the day. Changing the angle of retrieve to the light and wave action is one well-proven method. Sometimes just speeding up the retrieve will do the trick. Conversely, a much slower retrieve will at times have the desired result.
I think possibly a change of fly may be advisable.
Coming down in fly size from, say, a 10 to a 12 or 14 will often solve the problem, especially if it's combined with a slower retrieve. Dapping the top dropper fly on the surface film can be a very killing method, particularly when the following fish is still hovering near the surface. On days with a steady wind, long corridors of relatively smooth water often form. Called slicks or wind lanes, the fish frequently feed avidly in these lanes as they move slowly upwind. This feeding pattern may be due to the increased surface tension of the smooth water. Hatching insects seem to find smooth surface water difficult to break through, and large numbers of nymphs can be temporarily trapped as they struggle to hatch out. This offers the trout an easy-to-collect meal, a sort of underwater takeaway for fish.
Yeah, fish here as well. Well, that's close. He's interested in that, yes!
Hold on.
See, as soon as he came out, just turned around, changed of direction and took it. A lovely bend in the rod, look at that. Come on, fish, you can have all the time you like. So I always say, John, give me brownies in competition. They don't fight like rainbows, do they?
Can you manage?
Brownies come out so much faster than that. Look at that. What a lovely fish. I always put brownies back, actually.
Look at the tail on that fish, Chris.
That probably started off life around about last summer as a little fish about 9 inches long, something like that. I'd rather see brownies go back and swim and live again.
There you are, look, there you are.
Yeah. Well done, John.
There we are.
Excellent. Was that muddler, or did you change, or were you thinking of changing?
No, I was thinking of changing.
Very glad you didn't.
No.
One net coming up.
Thank you.
That's better fish, isn't it?
Well, it feels quite good. He's staying down. It may be a brown, but he hasn't showed you. That's right. Get yourself up in the air. Let's have a look at you.
Nice fish.
Trim it.
He likes the side of the boat, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Look at that. It's a special
Oh,
fish.
it's a cracking fish, John. Absolute beauty. Look at that.
It's a beauty, isn't it? Look at the colour in that.
It is,
Just
isn't
like
it?
a grill.
It is. Just like a young salmon.
I think we put that one back.
There's a fish down there, actually, John. Fish coming
John
up.
Dawson and John Horsey are also finding the fish will do anything but get hold of their flies. The unbroken or continuous retrieve using both hands is sometimes an effective ploy, but it can be difficult to strike if a fish does take.
Here it comes. Yes, here comes the follow now. Here, look at this come.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's more like it. Lift and lift and lift and lift and... Oh, and I pulled it over his mouth.
They're using mainly buoyant flies that will stay in or on the surface film. Greased up flies like the grenadier on the top dropper, with a hackle pheasant tail in the middle and a white muddler on the point, all have a skating action during a fast retrieve. This wake fly technique can often turn follows into takes.
Can you move the other way?
Here he comes.
Oh, yes.
Here he comes.
Oh, look.
Oh, I pulled it out of his mouth again. He's still there looking for it.
He wanted it, didn't he?
Oh, my goodness. That's the way they will come if you can get it right. If we can cover them accurately enough, they've got no hesitation
There's
to
one
follow.
down there. I hope he's coming. Yes, I've got him.
Right, that's it.
Well, I hope I can get him accurately enough. Well, it's about there. Yes, he's on to me. I've got him.
Yes, well done. Beautifully done. They look as if they're done for, and then they find another boost of energy again from somewhere.
Trouble is with the point, it can be very difficult to get them in. Get him in quickly before he knows what's
Oh,
happening.
well done, John. Well done.
Beautiful condition fish.
Perfectly done. Well done.
Not particularly big, but lovely silvery fish. In this kind of fishing, if you can get 1 in 10 fish you've covered, I don't think you're doing too badly.
It's a fish a fair ways out to my right, going across the wind.
Shall I go forward a bit?
Can you?
We've got to
You
find them.
need to go back another 20 yards, John, if you can, to the right. Okay, check back.
Sorry?
He's checked back. That'll do. There's a fish there. He's checked across to the right again.
Oh, yes. Got him.
There's a fish on the fly now. There's slight bow waving. There he comes.
Yes.
Follow him.
There he is. Come on,
Still
he's got to
coming.
have that. He wants it.
Yes!
Really moving about that one.
That was very nice, but I'd rather see his big brother now.
Come on, fishy, 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 fishy. Whoops.
Classic chew fish. Beautiful silver fish, John.
There, the fly's fallen out into the net.
Beautiful silver fish.
Smashing.
Oh, he's on me. Look at this one. Come on. Come on.
Oh, look at that.
Got him.
Yes.
Got him.
Great.
Bring it over the net. Ah, smash it. Oh, that's a cracking.
This is where you need 3 hands. Sorry around you, John.
It's okay.
Better fish than yours, of course.
Okay, guys, let's see who can guess closest to the weight of this one then. Best fish of the day. Put it on, John.
5 and a quarter. 5 and a quarter.
Just on 5, 5.2.
4.15.
Is that little?
And the weighting.
£5 dead.
You sure
I
you
found this down on the scales
dead.
already today.
Our featured anglers have all been successful in competitive fly fishing. Much that they have learnt has come from fishing under the pressures only found in competitions, where just one fish can save the day. So let's look in at the most prestigious match of the year, the Benson and Hedges International Final at Rutland Water.
Very, very slow.
These finalists have already won through 4 or more very tough matches to qualify for this major event. There's a great sense of occasion, and every angler is on his mettle to do well, whatever the conditions. Rods, lines, flies, all sorts of tackle boxes and wet gear must perform perfectly on this day above all. Now for the first decision, where to fish in 3,000 acres of water. They start to find out what sort of boat partner they've drawn. Will you have some weird theory where the fish are? Will the weather suddenly change? Where are the local anglers heading for? Whatever the problems, everyone is, in a sense, on his own today. There's only one objective: catch fish until the final hooter.
Bloody good.
It's all over for another year. 12 hours of flat-out fly fishing over 2 days. Now for the post-mortems and the lessons learned the hard way.
I'd have got over 20.
Definitely should have moved, because that's when they started taking them, mate.
Yeah, but I didn't. But I went on the weed beds and we hit fish straight away, Stuart.
The chap in the boat said to me, I've never seen anybody look so relieved in the weed bed.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I got really despondent. My boat partner pulled, he had one offer and his next fish stuck on, and I'd lost, I don't know how many fish. I was getting real down.
Fine, bugger.
And it worked.
And I suppose nobody has any doubt they actually caught 2 less fish than those teams, but their total weight was 61 pounds, 14.5 ounces. Can we see that man again, please? The captain of Cormorant Fly Fishing Club. Wow!
The west coast of Ireland is blessed with a collection of beautiful lochs and river systems into which run salmon and sea trout by the thousand. After the busy reservoirs of England, these natural waters are a haven of peace and tranquility. By definition, migratory fish must run up the rivers to reach the lochs, and this gives the fisherman the opportunity to cast over both types of water for truly wild fish. It's rather exciting when the angler never quite knows what his next fish might be. It could be a pound sea trout or a 10-pound salmon.
Start off with a shot and wind it up. He built all these piers.
That's
He
right.
done a wonderful work, you know. He gave a lot of
He was
pride
very
to-
popular in the area.
Very popular, very, very popular.
I would say it's a salmon.
I was saying there, do you remember I was telling you that just off into the pier there? There should be, I don't know. You know, he started laying.
Absolutely.
The old social does the trick.
It's you that worked the magic, I think, Michael. You told me where to go.
He's a blackie.
Well done, Michael.
Very good.
Good.
No.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. Very hard.
Big brown trout about?
No.
Arthur Oglesby moves upriver to try his famous spey techniques on the Irish sea trout in the beautiful Ballynahinch River.
No.
A big rod and a long cast covers every inch of the pool, searching around the current in all the likely places. A slow retrieve with a single stoat's tail gives the fly an almost irresistible action through the water.
Could pick up a trout there now as well. Usually in that, you know, camp.
Mind you, there's nothing like having a friendly gilly beside you to suggest where the fish might be lying today.
All rivers actually fish different, you know.
Absolutely. And the great secret, in my view, is knowing your river.
Definitely.
There we go.
Yes. Very good. Well done, well done, well done. Better one.
I don't know.
Hey?
It's hard to say.
Well done. Well done. You can actually move down there a little bit now, maybe come out onto that pier.
I see.
And if you did run down, very good.
Oh, nice little sea trout, Michael.
Yes.
I thought it was a fish at first.
I did too, no, actually.
Well done.
Oh, and a good one.
That's a nice fish, Michael.
It is. That's a nice little fresh sea trout too.
What will it weigh, £1.5 pounds?
Pound and 3/4 roughly.
Ah, well.
You close under 2 pound. Very nice, huh?
The sun shines even brighter and the temperature soars, but there are takeable salmon in the smallest streams if you can tempt them up.
Although lochs are often best fished from a boat, on an afternoon like this, it often pays to find a little feeder stream that's running from an interconnecting lake, and it's pretty sure that the fish will be congregating in this little stream. And I'm just going to try, stealth is always a good plan with these small streams. I'm going to try a short cast. They'll be probably laid right on the edge of this steep fall off in this loch, and a short line will often get them where a long line won't. Because a lot of people would march straight up to the point in full view of everything, and then cast as far as they could to the distant horizon, and they probably frighten all the fish that we might catch close to the rod like this. Just seeing a fish move a little bit down the current. And I've got my dropper fly dibbling just in the wave there, and the tail fly obviously not very deep under the water. Small fly seems to attract summer fish much better than a larger one. And of course, in a situation like this, if you were to use a big fly, you'd probably run the risk of foul hooking a fish, which is something I don't want to do. The slow presentation of a fly, even in a hot July day, often works better than a faster presentation. And I'm just hanging this fly in the center of the current now. It's a technique that sometimes works. If you just pay a little bit of line off the reel like that and let the fly drop back slowly, it will often induce a fish to take. It's a fishing by means of what I call intimidating your fish. And until we know why a salmon takes our fly, we're only speculating about the real reason. I liken them to a playful cat that sees a bit of leaf blown on the wind. Sometimes they'll go and dab it with their paw. They know they can't eat it. They're just exercising their predatory instinct. Of course, these fish have traveled a long way. They've come up through the tidal estuary into this loch. There we go. Well, the miracle's happened. I've hooked a fish on this lovely, bright, sunny afternoon. They're great fun on a little single-handed rod. Spirited little fish, I think about 5 or 6 pounds. I didn't like the sight of that net. I'm not going to be over keen with him. I've only got an 8-pound leader on, which is perfectly adequate, of course, with a single-handed rod, but makes sense not to do anything silly at this stage. There we go. How's that for a little fish? Well, that's a bonny little fish. You can see where it's been in a net. Bad scars, a little bit kelty, but it's fresh enough. And I'm going to knock that one on the head to take home. It's taken a very small little fly, and I don't know why it's done so. But the fact is that at this time of the year, it's often your smallest fly that will get you a fish where a large fly fails.
Arthur now joins Jeremy Lucas at Loch Furnace, and with them is Chris Mills from the Bury Shule fishery. Today it'll be interesting to see how Arthur's more classical sea trout methods match up against Jeremy's English reservoir technique.
Jeremy, you're a great Stillwater man. How does this sort of fishing we're doing today, say, differ with Rutland?
They're wildly different tactics nowadays, Arthur. It's become such a different game. There's some essential difference in the way that sea trout move at the fly and the way brown trout and especially rainbow trout come at the fly. And I think the main one, of course, is that sea trout do very little feeding once they reach fresh water.
see you're using 3 flies, Jeremy. I'm only using 2. Do you think there's a decided advantage over 3?
Yeah, 3 different patterns I can present at the same time, but the most important thing is the dynamic difference. I've got the top dropper there, fishing on and in the surface, and even a little bit above. You know the way sea trout can spill out over the top of them and come back down on top of them. I've got one in the middle dropper position, which is maybe 6 inches down, coming up to the surface, and then one up to about 2 feet down.
Do you do a fast strip on the retrieve, or do you like a slow?
Very often I do a fast retrieve. If it's conditions like this and there's a nice blow and we're drifting fairly quickly, then you've got to strip fairly quickly just to keep up with the flies.
Absolutely.
But when it goes a little bit calmer than this, I tend to fish much more slowly than most people do actually for sea trout. I like a slow retrieve. What depth are we on here, Chris?
It's fairly shallow here. I wouldn't say we're in more than 6 or 7 foot of water.
Nice sea trout depth then.
Nice sea trout depth.
We're slightly unorthodox, not at least I am, in that I'm throwing a fairly long line and doing a quick strip back. I suppose the traditional lock style is where you're dabbling the bob fly in the wave.
That's it. They only put out about 15, possibly 20 yards of line.
Yeah.
And they're working that bob fly nearly all the time.
On the surface.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this rather longer cast isn't really the traditional method, but could well be as, if not more, successful.
Yes!
Got one.
Well done.
That's
oh,
a nice
it's a good
fish.
Nice fish.
Lovely.
He's on the bibio. They're taking beautifully right on the top, aren't they? There's another one coming out. You see him?
I think we're just lucky. We've hit a shoal of fish that have come in from sea relatively recently. Yeah. Or is he foul hooked?
He may be. He just may be. No, he's all right. He's fairly hooked.
Well, there we are.
Lovely.
Have him.
Oh, super.
That's a grand-looking fish.
Yes. Do you think that these traditional flies score so well because everyone fishes them, or do you think there is something genuinely very special about them?
I think what's special about them is that sea trout continue to feed, and I think you'll find that most of the really good sea trout flies can represent insects that are found on the water.
Ah, right, yeah.
If more fishermen fished with imitative patterns, I think they do at the moment just fortuitously.
Yes.
But if they were genuinely to go after sea trout, fishing for them in an imitative way,
yes,
they'd be more successful.
Right.
There we go.
Well done.
Oh, yes.
Well done.
Only a little one, but not a bad little
nice.
fish. Unlike you, Jeremy, I like to get them on the reel. I know the Stillwater technique is to play them by hand, as Bob Church used to say. There he goes. I'll bring him round to this side. Might be easier for you to net him there, Chris. Only a tiddler.
Oh,
Thank you, Chris.
Lovely fish.
Thank you.
Well done, Arthur.
Still got sea lice on it.
Yeah, they say that sea lice last 48 hours, but it has been said, I think in laboratory conditions, that they can stay on for up to 7 days.
Yes, and I think especially in a loch like this, Arthur, where sometimes the water is brackish right to the top, they may well stay on fish for quite some time.
Yeah.
But at the moment we've plenty of fresh water, and I'd say this fish hasn't been in from the sea very long.
No. That's a bonny little fish anyway.
Not
Thank
too
you.
bad.
Talking about having more than one fly on a team, my second ever salmon, which I hooked on the point fly, I very nearly didn't get in because the sea trout of 1.5 pounds hung itself on a dropper.
Yeah.
Luckily, the sea trout dropped off and the salmon didn't.
I once had a a sea trout on my tail fly and a bat on the dropper.
A bat?
It was at night time, of course.
Oh,
gotcha!
That's a nice fish. Good man.
What better fly for a sea trout from this area than the Connemara black? He took with a bang. Whoa! Okay, I'll bring him round the back. Probably be better for you to... He's coming around there anyway.
Could you lift the oar, Arthur? Lift the oar, just on.
There he is. He's about played out.
Well done. That's a bonny little sea trout.
Lovely sea trout.
Oh, lovely.
Great.
Well done. What will it weigh?
A smasher.
3 pounds?
I think just a shade over 2.
2.
Thank you, Chris.
Look at that.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. Beautiful Irish sea trout.
For their final day's sea trout fishing in Ireland, Arthur and Jeremy are gillied by Roy Pearce, the fishery manager on the famous Costello fishery.
Straight out from here. What sort of depth will you hold us over?
I see you're using a very long leader.
Yeah.
I'm actually learning a little bit about this game from you, in fact.
Well, I like the flies a long way from the fly line, Arthur, and the only way of doing that is with a long leader. But it does give me a lot of trouble when I catch a fish on the top dropper. Even if it's a small one, it can spin up the whole leader and bunch up those flies together. Terrible tangle. But it does give me an advantage, I'm sure, yes.
Yeah. Do you use the same length of leader on you when you're still water fishing?
I rarely use less than 18 feet, Arthur. And again, mostly because I want those flies a long way from any disturbance to the fly line. It's only a trouble when you've got calm weather, and then sometimes you either have to taper the leader or you just have to come shorter to about 14 feet or so.
Right.
But I use anything up to 30 feet. Got it. That's a nice one. Took that on a very fast retrieve.
That was on the fast retrieve,
A
was
very
it?
fast retrieve, yeah. Always a good fish. Taking the Soldier Palmer, actually. Okay, I think he's about ready now. Lovely.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Roy. Lovely.
There we are. That was it.
Very powerful
Nice
fish.
fish.
My first one.
First one.
No, he wasn't going to get away. £1.5? £1.25? He hit it with a bang. Very, very fast retrieve.
Tremendous condition. He's
very firm.
Very firm fish. Judging by his colour, I would imagine that he's probably been in fresh water perhaps 3 weeks. Water temperature, I think, must have a factor to play in whether the fish are darkening up quickly and still holding their condition. This fish is still in very good condition, and I would say certainly not more than 3 weeks in fresh water.
That's very interesting. With these long rods, Arthur, you can in a wind like this, you can almost dat the fly,
Yes.
even with a proper fly line on.
Well done. Hey, got another one. Nice fish.
You've got a good bend on that rod. It's a nice soft rod. I like a soft rod.
Oh, yeah. You don't lose many fish on a soft rod like this.
They're game little fighters, these sea trout, aren't they?
Yes, and you know, they never seem to lose their punch no matter how long they're in from the sea.
What would be the biggest you'd get here, Roy, in a normal sort of year? Would a 6 pounder be a trophy?
A 6 pound is a specimen fish in Ireland, and last season we had 3 specimen fish in the fishery. And
Well done. A nice little fish.
A nice little fish. Again, in excellent condition, though darkened up considerably. It brings out the point I made earlier that they do seem to be darkening up quite quickly.
Have you any firm views on the question of colour in a fly?
Well, of course, as you know, Arthur Kingsmill Moore wrote extensively about this fishery and about the colour of fly, and he was very adamant that the colour of fly had absolutely everything to do with fishing. He was extraordinarily specific in his tyings, and he then argued, of course, whether fish could see colour, and in fact, obviously at that time couldn't come to any conclusion. I think perhaps today we're still as confused. But at the moment, Arthur, with the sun just peeping out, I'd suggest perhaps a blue Zulu might be of interest to the sea trout. Certainly, some of the days during the week, the fishermen seem to catch everything on the blue Zulu.
Well, he's a silly man who doesn't take his gillies' advice.
What I like to do, Arthur, is to trim the tail about 1/8 of an inch, we find, and with this clearing weather, it might well do the trick.
Thank you. I'll give you this 1 inch blade. Yeah, this is a better one, I think. I'm doing the very thing I recommend people not to do. I'm stripping in my hand.
I think you're taking the trophy for the biggest fish today.
Well, Arthur, I'll have to say that the blue Zulu didn't come away without catching a fish.
It's done the trick, has it?
It's done the trick.
Right.
Oh, he's gone. There's the point in hand, Arthur. The leader tangled all around the fly because it's taken the middle dropper. Yes. Oof.
Again, I'm afraid it's that fly again. Soldier Palmer.
Just take your time. Here he comes. Lovely.
Well done, sir.
Nice little fish.
Nice little fish, yeah.
No one knows exactly why one angler will catch fish while others do not. We probably wouldn't want to go fishing if we did. Our Stillwater specialists have tried to show how they do it on difficult fishing days.
9-10 feet.
I'm just hoping I can get one of them good old clouts at the minute, Brian, because mine have been... Well, two have been
Much
good
of their
clouts,
skill
which I can't
is
understand why
instinctive
they didn't stay.
and not easy to put into words, but it's all in the pictures. If you watch very carefully, all their secrets are here for you to share.
Putting a DL bark on, it's a Welsh pattern. It represents just about all things to all fish.
Intense observation of the factors affecting the trout's behaviour is fundamental to the success of all fishing, and especially so on the more difficult days.
In actual fact, you can really give it some life because they go at that kind of speed.
Daddy Longlegs, Bob, just coming past you. Daddy, look.
Good grief, that's early.
The combination of how the line is retrieved in one hand and the rod manipulated by the other is unique to every angler. Look very hard and you will see this aspect of the angler's art is constantly changing in subtle ways as our experts search for the successful formula. When all is said and done, fishing is for fun. There's nothing quite like that moment when you feel the first solid strike.
There's a fish on the fly now. There's slight bow waving, there he comes.
There he is. Come on,
Still
he's got to have
coming.
that. He wants it.
Still coming. He's still there.
He's there. He's
Good.
Got
it.
Ah, there we are.
What a jump.
There we are.
Excellent.
Yeah, here we are.
Well done, Bob.
Come on.
Oh, look at that.
Got him.
Yes.
Got him.
Great.
Yes!
Well done, Jeremy.
Oh, what a lovely take.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah!